suddenly at the very end it escalated and he killed a whole bunch of people or women.
From 67 to 60?
Right, so this would be his beginning thing.
He's starting with 3 women at once?
I know, that's really, that's
ambitious.
I'm just saying,
bang.
He kind of matched the description. He's not too far off of the area, a couple hundred miles away, so yeah, that's a jaunt, but you never know with these kind of things. The other one that I saw was Richard Speck, and if anybody doesn't know who he is, he's the guy that on July 14th of 1966, which is 10 or 12 days prior, he killed 8 nursing students, 8 women in their house. He said he was on some, he was drunk and he was blackout drunk, but he butchered all of them, and he obviously would have had the capacity to do that. So they're 2 ones that are right there in the area.
That one
that could have been Early's.
Yeah, I guess that's true. That second one, Speck. I guess I'm more willing to believe him than the other one.
Well, and the problem with Speck is Speck didn't clean up.
Yeah, he didn't clean up, and also, why not just? I mean, if you've brutally murdered 8 women, what's another 3?
Well, they're warm-ups.
No,
I mean, sound crass,
but I mean to not say. Oh, also.
Well, to
give the closure.
He tried to
That's true.
play games, as all these guys who do this kind of crap do.
How did either one of them own a boat?
Not that I know of, but I haven't seen that in there. But they were both. So Speck was in his mid-20s at the time, and John Norman, I think, was 18 or 19 at the time. So that's why I feel like he could have matched the description.
Yeah.
That's why I looked at him like, hey, well, check this out.
Yeah, the man is described as being in his mid-20s-ish. Hard, mid-20s is hard because it's kind of when you start looking like you're any age. But yeah, I mean, those are 2 good theories, I guess.
Other suspects that are out there that I'm amazed. People are always trying to tie people who did bad deeds into so many other cases.
Yeah.
So I'm amazed
that
hasn't happened with this one.
It
so
is
I decided to
surprising,
be
I
the jerk
agree.
that would do it.
Yeah.
No, that's a good idea. I like it.
Yeah.
I could see where he would decide, hey, I want to start serial killing, and I know I've got this great idea. I'm going to go down to this beach with a boat, and I'm just going to pick up a girl, take her out in the lake, and kill her. And then he gets out there and he discovers, hey, no individual woman is kind of willing to climb into my boat alone with me. Duh. And so he winds up with 3 women in his boat. Okay, well, let's just roll with the punches. And that's what he did.
For me, for it to be one person is always pretty incredible to me, particularly since all 3 of these women were pretty strong swimmers. Don't you think at least one of them would have tried to escape?
If you're in a motorized boat and somebody is swimming away, you know what is very easy to do?
Run them over?
Yeah.
Run them over.
There's that.
Oh, she got away. Well, I'll finish what I'm doing because we're out in the middle of the lake,
That's true.
and then I'll just take care of her.
True story. Okay, that's fair. The next theory is a little bit of a sensitive topic.
This is a popular theory, though.
It's a very popular theory, but just so you guys know, if anybody needs to take a break for this one, feel free.
Or if you got little ones and you don't want them to hear it.
We're going to talk...
It's about aliens.
It's... No.
Oh, no, wait, that's the next one.
It sounds like, in July. I've also heard that Patricia was pregnant, but I'm not sure where that information comes from. I've also heard that all 3 of them were pregnant, but I have no idea where that information comes from. I don't think Renee was pregnant. I think her...
Yeah, she's just the one married one, if she's not pregnant, huh?
She is the one married one, but I think her family would have known, but maybe not. Anne had talked about entering a home for unwed mothers before her disappearance. And now, this is 1966. So that's 7 years before Roe v. Wade. So abortion is super illegal at the time.
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
Well, not everywhere. It was legal in some American states.
But it was not in where they were at.
Not in the Midwest where they were at, no.
Right.
But yeah.
And as we know, when something is illegal, we just make it in our bathtubs and get on with life. So that's what they did.
It's kind of what happens.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There was this well-known man named Hank Largo in the Chicago area at that time, and he, along with his wife Helen, helped women who were in a family way who did not want to be in a family way out by providing
abortions.
Yeah. They operated out of a houseboat, is what it's described as, floating on, you guessed it, Lake Michigan. I've also heard that maybe they operated out of Gary, Indiana, but to be honest, I don't know why you wouldn't just operate at multiple locations or move your operation a lot.
That would seem like the wise thing to do.
It's illegal, and people are going to come after you if you.
Yeah, eventually somebody's going to figure it out, and if you move around a lot, you're safer. Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you're like on a houseboat. Just move that boat around. Yeah.
Well, yeah, if you have actually a good chart and you know where the demarcation between, say, Illinois and Indiana is, then when the Illinois State Police and their launches start coming after you, it's like, and just
right over
across the line.
Yeah. So Helen and Hank's nephew, Ralph Largo Jr., it sounds like maybe ran a bit of a ferry transport to help young women get to this houseboat, and also, make sure that they never knew. I mean, that's what you kind of want. You want somebody to transport people there because
you don't be driving the houseboat to the dock.
Right, but also you load your women into a smaller craft and you ride around Lake Michigan, drop them off, pick them up again, do whatever you need to do to make sure that they don't know where in the lake they are, so that nobody can go to the police later and say it was a houseboat and it was here.
He could be a totally good cutout too. He shows up and he doesn't say, "Hey, you ready for an abortion?" Instead you show up and say, "Hey, you girls want to go for a ride?"
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and the women know that these are the code words.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They know what kind of, but they know that's why they went in. Yeah. So this would explain a lot, but so the theory goes, before we get a little too far into it, obviously, the theory goes that either just Anne or Anne and Patricia or all three of them were pregnant. They were able to contact Hank and find out, or get this procedure started, wanted friends with them. I'm just going to go on the assumption that Anne was the only one that was pregnant, but she wanted her two good friends with her, probably for safety, but also for emotional support and things like that. Something goes wrong. It's botched.
So they kill them all.
They kill them all.
To hide it.
And, I don't know, throw them overboard or something.
Yeah, they just probably kept some weights around for that very purpose. Yeah. And then they moved the houseboat.
And then never to be wiser.
Yeah, one of the problems I have with this theory, I'm not totally discounting it, but they went off into the water wearing bathing suits and then get into the boat and go off for their abortions. And I'd never had an abortion, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. Is a bathing suit what you want to be wearing right after you've had your abortion?
No. No, there is convalescing is what you would want to do more so than playing in the beach, running around in your bathing suit. That would be much more conducive to your recuperation.
However, on the other hand, if this operation is happening on a houseboat and it's super illegal, you're going to want to try to keep all of the attention away from you as possible. So you're going to go in your bathing suit because it's unsuspicious for you to be swimming around. You may even spend the night on this houseboat recuperating. I don't know. They likely have, robes and other clothes on the houseboat for you to be able to help cover yourself up and feel better in. But, I mean, you do what you have to do in situations that are that illegal.
I will not.
Certainly, it's not the ideal situation, but a back alley illegal abortion on a houseboat isn't the ideal situation either. So
I understand that, and the weather was super hot. I think it was like 90-some degrees that day. But if this guy is going to pick you up, he could just as easily have picked you up at one of the docks that's around the area, and you could, whoever was going to have the procedure could have, instead of wandering around in a bikini, had a sundress on.
Sure.
That isn't,
Yeah,
what I'm dancing around.
It wasn't like that was the
here
only access point to the lake, right?
Well, there's that.
Yeah.
And what else I'm also dancing around is that there's likely to be apparent bleeding after the fact.
Oh, yeah.
That is
That's
going
what
to
I
be
was thinking,
very
yeah.
noticeable in a swimsuit.
Yeah.
So that's why I have such a problem, and I agree with Joe.
Yeah.
This particular one to have been something.
I agree that it's definitely not a foolproof theory. But I also agree that it's not the worst theory out there, except with the exception of...
Silas?
With the exception of something went wrong and they killed 3 women because an abortion was botched. I mean...
It's...
I mean,
Well, the thing about it is that when abortions get screwed up, and again, I'm not an expert, by the way.
And this is a touchy subject, and I think we all understand and agree with that. We're not.
Well, yeah, it's usually complications after the fact, And it's not like somebody's getting an abortion and they just immediately kick off. I mean, it takes a little while. So it could be
Causes
like
bleeding.
Yeah, I mean, it is
uncontrolled
an
bleeding.
operation, so it could be, somebody could bleed out on the table, conceivably. Ooh, I don't know if that's
But
the right word.
more
But-
likely they would die from sepsis somewhat later.
Sure, but
Yeah.
I mean, even if in the instance that, somebody bleeds out on the table, for you to turn around and be like, well, I guess manslaughter is my only option here, instead of, saying she knew the risks, she decided to go through with it anyway, let's figure out if there's a way. I don't know. It's just turning straight to manslaughter is like crazy.
I don't think that's
Hey.
manslaughter. I mean, if you turn around and you kill the other two to keep it quiet, I think that's more than manslaughter.
That's
Yeah.
straight up murder.
Murder.
But I mean, okay. So let's look at it from the other side, from your perspective, and just go to the other side of whoever was getting the procedure does die, and the other two, or one of the other two, completely loses her mind and starts to, again, this is the same thing
And
as
they go
Dr.
off on him and they say, "I'm going to rat you out,"
Yes, and
then
start
yeah.
making threats, and this is your livelihood, and you do illegal things.
Yeah, that's
What's
true.
one more illegal thing?
That's
Two.
true.
Okay, two more illegal things
That's
to add
true.
to the heap.
Yeah, for me, I guess I just have a hard time. Because here's the thing: is the illegal thing they are doing is an illegal thing they are doing to help provide health access to women who need it. Right? They're not like slinging back alley super dangerous drugs. They're not out, thieving and things like that. They're trying to provide a medical service that women need.
Well,
So for
that's
me,
not quite the way people saw it back in those days.
no, it's not. That's
uh,
true. But what I'm saying is that I'm just trying to put myself in the boots of Hank and Helen, right? As the medical providers here, they're doing an illegal thing for good from their point of view, right? They're not doing an illegal thing for their own profit, for their own benefit, maybe
Well,
for a little monetary
probably
profit, but
some of
not.
each,
They are not murderers, right? They are not common thieves and criminals. So for
Yeah.
me to say like, hey, these doctors who are providing this medical procedure for people, what's another murder on top of that? Like, that's a pretty big stretch for me.
But at the same time, even though I agree these people probably weren't the kind of people to just cold-bloodedly murder people, in a situation like that where these, a woman is, like Steve says, flips out, says, you're an incompetent moron, I'm going to take this to the police right now. I could see where you would panic and just grab a blunt instrument and just hammer them both.
Sure.
With it. I could totally see that.
I
could
will
see
admit that.
any
I
of us
just
doing
am
that.
taking exception with the idea of like, what's another murder on
Yeah,
top
yeah, I
of
see what you're
an
saying,
illegal
yeah.
medical procedure?
And I would be careful to when you're doing that, Devin, because you're saying that they have, they don't have the scruples to be bad people and just do it because they're in it for the money, because they could potentially be that kind of person.
They could totally have been bad people.
And I will admit,
well-
I didn't do a whole lot of reading on these two because
There's
I
not
was
a lot of
focused-
reading to be
okay,
done.
That makes me feel better because I spent a lot of time on Silas.
Yeah.
So I think that
Yeah.
I think we've established this one quite
I agree.
thoroughly.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's the second theory, third, fourth. I don't know if we're counting your weird serial killer murderers as theories.
When are we going to? What
about-
about the water spout? When are we going to get the water spout?
Water spout.
Well, there wasn't a water spout, but what about the water
crap.
crib?
Oh, the
There was a water crib.
Oh, there was a water crib. We can talk about that, I guess.
Sure.
Well, that's the water inlets that where
Oh.
they found the boat parts.
Yeah. They did find some boat parts.
There was a seat and some styrofoam.
Yeah, so it could have been stuff that was thrown overboard. It could have been, a boat crash from weeks
And
ago.
that again, the boat crib was, or the crib was like a giant intake for a water supply for what the
It's
city,
it's a
the
it's
city of
basically a-
Gary. Was it the city of Gary, Indiana, or
I
it was
think
essentially-
it serves. Oh God, does it serve Chicago? I don't remember which city it serves now, but it's a giant concrete pillar that's got a processing plant in the middle of it. It's way out in the lake.
yeah, and so presumably they put filters and screens so people in boats don't get sucked into it. I'm assuming.
And they also set a bunch of divers down around it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because divers searched all around that thing because they presumed that on this fun boat ride they smashed headlong into it and they
Yeah.
all sunk, and that's why it
Yeah,
was
I mean,
found.
there was no boat that was reported missing or crashed or anything like that, but I don't put a lot of stock into
No,
that.
I mean there was no boat found there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I have a couple other theories I know that... Steve, do you have another one
I
theory?
don't.
Okay, well, I guess our final theory is aliens or staged or
Aliens.
something.
Uh-huh.
One of Patty's friends did mention, Patricia, one of Patricia's friends did mention that she told them that she was planning to stage her own disappearance, which, I don't know, maybe, I guess, $55 is a lot to leave behind.
In checks. Yeah.
Yeah. Police report that Renee's marriage may have been in trouble.
Because they found a letter in her purse.
Yeah,
that
they'd
she'd
been
written.
married 15 months, and she had written a letter that said that he spent too much time working on hot rod cars with his friends, and she wanted to end it. But her husband says that he didn't know of any issues because he was too busy working on hot rod cars.
He's a typical dude. He
Yeah.
has no idea.
He had no idea. But the family agreed, and people pretty much assumed that she just had this note because she had it and had written it when she was angry one night, and then just didn't never plan on giving
That's
it to him.
not unheard of.
No, I do it.
Another possibility is that whoever was pregnant, it was Anne that was certifiably pregnant, or was it
Certified,
Patricia?
yeah, no,
Anne.
Anne.
It was Anne. Okay, yeah. Maybe her boyfriend decided to off her.
Yeah.
Although again, I don't really understand, offing all three of them versus just her.
Yeah.
I don't quite get that.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah.
It is
So-
very brazen to go after all three at once.
Especially
Yeah.
in broad daylight on a public beach.
Yeah. I mean, the reason people mention that they might have been married is like, well, maybe one of the wives came after them or why the boyfriends were married. I don't know. I think the Silas Jane or the abortion theories are the best ones. But
But the convenience, the thing that helps with the story when you see the stuff that killed all three of them when they were in the area, is the fact that the dunes in that area are constantly shifting.
oh yeah.
And so it is entirely possible that somebody could have buried them at the base of a dune, and those are living dunes, meaning they're moving all
Sure.
the time. And they could have been buried, just a couple feet down, and the dune does all of the hard work and covers all of the evidence for you.
Which means they might come popping out here one of these days.
They might, yeah.
They might.
Well, people do think that there's probably some additional evidence that got buried in the dunes at some point, but I don't think people really think that their bodies are built. I mean, it's possible, but I don't know.
You also see the stuff about, so there's at Mount Baldy, which is right near there's the stuff about the holes. You guys saw those articles, didn't
Yeah.
you? Because it's a moving dune. It's swallowed up entire trees, which are then rotted out, and the sand is just kind of barely held together in a column, an open air column. And a boy fell in a couple of years ago, but people
Yeah.
was like, well, maybe
Yeah.
they all got swallowed.
That's a mighty huge coincidence.
That is a very
Yeah.
huge
Yeah.
tree to have rotted out and not collapsed prior.
Or maybe they all three fell in three separate holes. They were walking side by side. Wow, there's a coincidence for you. But yeah, that would have had to have been a new. And by the way, just FYI, as far as I know, in that area, there were never any trees anywhere near big enough to swallow three women.
No.
Yeah.
No, the holes are like 12, 15 inches in diameter.
I have heard that phenomenon even occurs around here down the
Yeah.
coast.
It does
it's
at our dunes.
It does. So be careful
Yeah.
out there. Wear a rope, a long, long rope.
Yeah.
Have your friends holding the other end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll save you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Well, what they do is they tie it to the back of their four-wheel drive.
I knew he was going to do
Yeah.
that.
yeah.
They
Did
pull
you
your body out.
have any more theories? Anybody?
I don't.
Oh, well, let me
Do you have
think.
favorite theories?
I kind of like the theory that it was a Chinese submarine, and they were defecting to China, and
In Lake Michigan, yeah.
yeah, that could have been
Sounds about
it.
right, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Other than that, no, really. I actually think my favorite theory is that they were probably a random murder, maybe a serial killer type of guy, because I don't see that Silas had any particular motivation. Of course, again, Silas is everybody's
Maybe
favorite.
a motivation we didn't know about.
Well, oh, yeah, totally, for sure. But I mean, Silas is everybody's favorite for this whole thing. But if you look at Silas's typical murder MO, this is pretty out there. This is pretty different for Silas to do it this particular way. Silas is more the kind of guy to either, plant a bomb in your car or just to have his guys take you out somewhere in a field and put a bullet in your brain.
Well, so the two other murders, the big ones that he was implicated in, the one of the three younger boys and then the Grimes sisters, those were bodies that were murdered and then dropped in ditches by the side of the road.
Right.
So this wouldn't be so far different from that necessarily. I mean, you kill three people and then drop them in the lake. instead. And I think that's one of the reasons that people really think that he looks good for this, because there was at least a tenuous connection between them and him. You can say they may have met, and he was a rapist.
Yeah,
you hate to say it, but he was a rapist.
Kind of a low life.
And, it's possible that he had just seen them and thought, oh, hey, I know.
Well, I'll tell you this.
I'll bring them on my boat, I'll rape them, and I'll murder them, and I'll just have a convenient dropping place.
That could have been it. And maybe he and his buddies were going to have just a whole rape fest
have
or something.
A good old time out
but,
on the boat.
and this is another possibility. And but I don't know. This might be just a little too subtle and clever for Silas.
I think that's I think we're getting to Cleverville.
Well, but let me point this out. There's actually only one pair of witnesses who saw the girls there, reliable witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
That was the couple, the married couple, who supposedly were next to them. But if you really wanted to be clever about disappearing these three, what you do is, you just have some people say you kidnap them, you take some of their effects, you have some of your accomplices go down to the beach and say, hey, they were right next to us, they went off and they got in a boat with a guy that had a mop of curly coal black hair.
Yeah, what we're getting into now, Joe, is that part that makes our listeners uncomfortable and think that maybe you are actually a serial killer.
Yeah, exactly. But what I'm saying is that we don't actually even know that they were at that park. We don't really, honestly,
technically
we don't really know that. Yeah.
Technically, that's true.
Yeah.
I think they probably were, but...
I think because the car was...
Well, no. Cars
can be moved, yes.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying is that we don't actually know that they disappeared from
I
the
think
park.
they were.
They probably were, but I'm not 100% sure of it myself.
So I think Silas is my favorite theory for how, there are myriad of different reasons that he could have done it or how he could have done it or whatever, but I think he did it.
I'm not convinced of anything. I do not believe that they voluntarily took off on their own.
Yeah.
But after that, I'm not willing to throw my hat onto any one of these.
Yeah, but voluntarily, you mean they disappeared themselves?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think they did voluntarily climb into that boat.
Oh, yeah.
What I'm saying is they didn't voluntarily just go start new lives.
Oh, yeah, no, that's kind of rare.
Okay, well, all of that having been said, I think we're going to wrap this one up. Don't forget to check out our sponsors on our website. That website is thinkingsidewayspodcast.com. You can download and listen to us pretty much anywhere. You probably know how to do that because you're listening to us right now, but just in case. Yeah. You can find us on iTunes. You can find us on Google Play. You can find us on Stitcher.
Just about anywhere.
All of those things. If you can subscribe, do so. If you want to leave a rating and a comment, please do so.
Especially 5-star ratings. We like those better.
You can find us on social media. You can join the Facebook group and like the page. You can find us on Twitter where we are Thinking Sideways. We've got a subreddit called Thinking Sideways. There's a theme here. I know you can tell.
Yeah.
You can contact us via email, thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. That is the best way to contact us. Please don't tweet at me and say, hey, let's talk about something, because 140 characters isn't going to cut it. Let's send an email. You can support the show by buying merchandise.
Off of our, Redbubble and Zazzle?
Yeah, you can get shirts, mugs, stickers,
all that
bunch
good
of stuff on Zazzle and Redbubble. Those links are on the right-hand panel.
Somebody sent us a picture the other day of them using their coffee mug.
I saw that. It looked very muggy.
Yes.
It looked like it was actually working. It looked like it had coffee in it. The coffee was actually staying inside the mug.
It was great.
Good. Yeah. So, I think that's it for us. I'm going to cruise on out of here.
Oh, once again, I got nothing.
Vamonos.
Toodaloo. Thinking Sideways is not brought to you by Bear Whiz Beer. No, instead it's brought to you by your local cat and dog shelter. That's right, there's lots of fuzzy, cute little four-legged critters out there that need your help. They want a home. They want you to come down and adopt them. And if you can't do that, and sometimes you can't, they could always use help, money or volunteers, but definitely do something for those little critters. They need you. Thinking Sideways.
welcome to another episode of Thinking Sideways. I am Steve, as always, joined by
Devin.
and
Joe.
who wants to sing, but we're holding him back.
I just want to sing, Father.
Yes, and we've
Yeah.
got the shot collar on you, so you cannot sing.
All right.
So we, of course, as always, have a mystery, and this week the mystery is spontaneous human combustion actually a real thing?
Well, yeah.
Dun.
So it's a hot case. We've got to cover it.
Got a lot of hot leads, do you?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes, it's burning up.
Yeah.
So, for those of you who don't know, spontaneous human combustion is described as the rare event when a human body is found partially or sometimes fully burned to basically ashes, while the things around the body have suffered very little, if no, damage from the fire that seems to have consumed it.
Which is, what do you think about it? Kind of weird.
It-
Because usually when you find burned up bodies, they're in the middle of a big fire themselves.
Yeah, the whole place has gone up.
Yeah, so it is a little strange when you think about it.
Yeah, it's also strange that the combustion, even if it is coming from a human, isn't catching all the stuff around said human on fire.
That's a
Exactly,
good
and
point, too.
Somehow it's just contained to the body.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's
that's a
going to be
little
a
weird.
recurring theme as we
Yeah.
go through it. We're gonna keep it. But wait, like it's gonna come up, so I'm just warning you now.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about how spontaneous human combustion could happen, but that's mostly gonna be in the theory section. But what I'm going to start out with is a couple of stories of spontaneous human combustion because they kind of illustrate it a little better than just the basic facts. Before we do those stories, though, I will say thank you to the listeners who have suggested this. This was suggested by Stuart and Sarah and possibly other people.
It was also
Probably.
suggested to us by the guys over at BuzzFeed Unsolved.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about those
Oh,
guys.
that is a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should talk to them one of these days.
Maybe.
But okay, so spontaneous human combustion, there have been reports of it, about 200 reports of it in the last 300 to 500 years, so I'm going to tell a couple of those. And before I get into it, I'm going to issue a word of warning to everybody. You may, as we're talking to this, if you're sitting in front of a computer, be tempted to start Google image searching spontaneous human combustion.
I mean, that's gross.
And I will tell you that if you have a weak stomach or you are too young to, see that kind of stuff, just don't do it because it
or
can
if
be
you're
gnarly.
at work.
Yeah, you might not want to do that
We
at
have
work.
a lot of work listeners.
Yeah, don't.
That'd be great, though. You know, you're sitting in your cubicle, and the guy in the cubicle next to you suddenly throws up, you know.
Jeez, Bob, what was that?
So
Okay.
just don't do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just be safe. Don't do it. Okay, so we're going to go through 4 cases I've picked out here. We're going to start with case number 1, which is the case of Mary Reeser. Mary Reeser lived in St. Petersburg, Florida.
This seems to, I don't know why, this seems to be one of the most famous ones.
It is.
I don't know why.
I think it's because it's got the most photos taken of it.
Yeah.
Oh, that could be.
There's a bunch of photos of her scene. But Mary was found dead in her home on July 2nd, 1951. What happened is that her landlady came by her door at about 8 o'clock in the morning that day, and for reasons that I don't know, became alarmed that Mary wasn't answering the door, and then she grabbed the door handle and found that the door handle was hot because 8 a.m. is too early for a hot doorknob, even in the state of Florida where it's 1,000,000 degrees in July.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure, no sunlight to fall on it yet and warm it up, so why the hell is it hot?
Exactly. So the landlady, whose name I can't find, it's always omitted, she gets upset. She starts knocking on the door. She can't get Mary to respond. She goes and calls the police. who
Although,
then-
actually, you're touching a hot doorknob, you should actually call the fire department.
it's true.
you know,
Was 1951 though,
Oh, okay.
You should just call 911 and say.
but 1990 911 was not a thing at
they
that
did-
time.
That's
They did not
right.
have that, yeah.
That's
No.
right.
I don't
Yeah.
remember when that
Yeah,
started, to be
alright.
honest
80s.
with you. 80s?
Yeah, it was in the 80s.
Well, now just dial 911 or whatever your emergency thing
Yeah.
is and say, somebody's not responding and the
Or-
doorknob's hot.
or
Send them
what is-
all.
what is it from the IT crowd? Oh God, Yeah, and it should be, and calls the police, who then come and get into the apartment. They break down the door, and they find Mary's remains in a chair, And by remains,
What's
I mean,
left.
yeah, what's left of her, because she had essentially, her and the chair had essentially been reduced to ashes. What was left was her part of her left foot, and she was wearing slippers, so there was still slipper on that foot, fully intact. And her skull was still there, but the accountings always say that it was shrunk down to the size of a teacup, which I take to mean that all of the skin was burned off. And the skull must have fallen apart because, your skull is not one solid bone, it's multiples.
Yeah.
And that's the only way that I can figure out that bone would be reduced to the size of a teacup.
Yeah, no, it's not going to shrink because of fire.
Right, yeah. So I'm thinking crumbling, falling apart.
Fire might make it brittle, and maybe when the firemen picked it up, they sort of like, oh, look at this. Crunch. Oopsie.
Yeah, no. I don't know, to be quite honest. The teacup thing is one of those very sensationalized statements. But that is Mary's story. We'll move from Mary. So case number 2 is the case of John Irving Bentley. Mr. Bentley had friends over visiting at his home on December 4th, 1966. And after his friends all left, he apparently burst into flames. Sometime between the hours of 9 o'clock at night, because his visitors all left at 9 o'clock, and the next morning, which would be December 5th, he would be burned to a pile of ashes except for his right leg. He was found by the meter reader who showed up to read his meter. By the way, does everybody know what a meter reader is?
Well, I do, but probably not everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: is that for folks who may not know, you've got like a gas meter or an electric meter outside your house.
Your utilities are metered.
Yes. So somebody has to come by and read the meter on a certain day to know how much you've used.
Used to have to. I don't think they do.
Not all of it is automated, but a lot of it is
most
these
of it
days.
is.
But that's what a meter reader is, and they're fairly common. They come by all the time. So you get used to your meter reader.
Although why the meter reader was like, poking around and snooping in stuff that really was his business, I don't quite get. That's a little suspicious.
I think that according to what I've read, the meter reader said when he got there, he noticed a weird smell, and then he said he saw blue smoke, which I'm guessing he must have seen that through the window of the house.
Yeah.
He wasn't in it at that point. And apparently the house must have been unlocked because he decided to investigate. And when he got to the bathroom of the house, he would find John Irving Bentley's body, and he would run for help, screaming something to the effect of, "Dr. Bentley is burned up! Oh my God!"
Wow, that's not cool.
No, it's a little weird.
Yeah.
And the investigators, when they first checked him out, they said, "Oh, well, it's probably pretty obvious here. He was known to smoke a pipe." They said he probably caught himself on fire while smoking in the bathroom, except then they would find his pipe completely intact in his bedroom, unmarred by flames. So he's in the bathroom. So that doesn't line up with their initial theory.
Although, a lot of pipe smokers have more than one pipe.
That is true. And we're going to get more into all of these cases in a little bit, but we'll just keep moving through to case number 3.
Oh, okay.
Which is the case of Robert Francis Bailey. He was a homeless man, and he apparently burned to death in 1967. At 5 a.m., a group of people were waiting at the bus stop. This is in September 13th of 1967.
Where was this at? For some reason I'm thinking San Francisco, but I can't confirm
Oh my
that.
gosh, I had it in my notes and somehow it's not here, and I can't answer that question off the top of my head. I don't remember.
Doesn't really matter, I guess.
Yeah. But these people are waiting outside for the bus, and they look up into the window of a nearby building, and they said that they saw flames, and so they called the police.
So it
Again,
was like
and not the fire department?
Right. It was like an abandoned house, though, right?
Yeah,
Abandoned building of
It's
some
always
sort?
listed as a derelict building,
Yeah.
so it gives me the impression that it must have been an abandoned or almost maybe a foreclosed kind of
Sure.
situation, completely empty building.
Something
Yeah.
that, somebody experiencing homelessness might squat in.
Correct. Absolutely. So the police get there and they get into the building and they they find Robert Francis Bailey's body, which is at that point still on fire. The arriving officers would report that they saw a blue flame that was coming out of a approximately 4-inch slit in his abdomen.
Which would be really weird.
Yeah, they said it almost
And
looked
creepy.
like it was like a jet of blue, like a torch. Have you ever used like a camping
Yeah,
torch
that's
kind of
so
thing?
weird.
Uh-huh.
That's the way that's what that brings to mind to me when they call it a blue flame, a torch-like flame. Is this whoosh kind of fire spewing out of his belly?
Yeah, I don't know exactly how you would go about processing that. Not probably something you were expecting to see when you left the house that day.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Probably not.
I would
Yeah.
I would have to say you're correct.
Yeah.
I will say that the reporting always says that his teeth were clamped down on the newel post of the staircase, and if you don't know what that is, that's the last upright on the handrail. So
Yeah. It's the big one on the end.
yeah, on the ends, the top and the bottom.
Okay.
It's the big post.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I looked at the pictures, and they say that they say that it looks like he was biting down on it. To me, it looks like he fell down, and as desiccated as his body is, I almost feel like maybe his head just kind of fell into it, and that's why it looks like it was biting it, because
Yeah,
it
might have.
looks more like it's resting against it than actually, to me, biting it means, clamp down into the wood, almost in pain, kind of.
And it was wood, not metal.
Correct.
And
Yes.
was the newel post burned, by the way?
No, not in the picture that I saw.
Any teeth marks in it?
Well, like I said, it just looked like his head was resting next to it. He was not completely burned up, though, because they found him there and his belly was, shooting out this blue flame, and they put him out by shoving a rubber hose in his, in that slit and spraying it full of water, which, that's like, if 12-year-old me wants to make the up your nose with a rubber hose joke here, but the point is they had to fill his insides with water to put it out.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. I would have been tempted to just let him burn out myself. But,
Well,
yeah.
I think that might have been a bit of a safety hazard and
Maybe.
against their Call of Duty.
Yeah.
I guess. Where did they get the hose from?
I don't know.
Where did they get the water from?
I don't know.
I don't get it.
I
Yeah.
assume they called the fire department.
Oh,
Maybe.
maybe.
It's not my assumption that the reason people called the police for all these things is the police would then, the dispatcher would then also call the fire department. If somebody
Perhaps.
called and said, smoke is coming out of this building, we need the police, they would say, all right, police are on their way. Oh, and also, let's just bring the fire department. So,
Might as well. Yeah.
Yes,
that would
they're
be
both-
my
'cause
assumption.
The cops are kind of crowd control. The firefighters there to fight the fire.
Yeah.
They work in tandem.
Yeah.
Makes total sense.
That's just my assumption.
Well, and the cops should show up. There might be arsonists who are fleeing the scene of the crime. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, hey, there's all kinds of reasons to send
Oh, yeah,
police
there's a
back
reason
for
they
a
take
fire.
pictures of the crowds. Firebugs are around.
Oh, good
And
point.
it may be that the police officer number is way easier to memorize than, 3 numbers. Just
Who
do the one.
knows? I don't know.
Who knows?
We have one final case that we're going to talk about, which is number 4, Henry Thomas. Henry Thomas was a 73-year-old